In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Hello and welcome to our presentation. Today we will be discussing integrated curriculum and helping you to gain a greater practical understanding and appreciation of an integrated curriculum. As many of you know, curriculum integration is a teaching and learning approach which brings together various ideas, knowledge and skills from within a single subject or across multiple subjects in a cohesive and meaningful way. It is underpinned by the idea that learning is more purposeful if it is constructed around concepts that are relatable to students. Because of common values, an integrated curriculum is often used as an inquiry approach to learning. Fogarty has described 3 different ways to integrate, which can be seen in the image on your screen. These are intradisciplinary, or within single disciplines, multidisciplinary, or across several disciplines, and transdisciplinary, or within and across learners. Within these broader categories, there are 10 ways or models of integrating. Each teacher views integration differently, and there is not one right way to integrate the curriculum. At any given time, any one of these models may be the most relevant or suitable way to integrate for your school, your classroom, and your students. Today we will be discussing integrated curriculum through the lens of 3 different models. Lauren will begin by discussing intradisciplinary and the nested model. Kelsey will discuss multidisciplinary and the webbed model, and Gemma will discuss transdisciplinary and the immersed model. The intradisciplinary models sit at one end of the spectrum for curriculum integration and reflect a more traditional approach to teaching and learning. Each of these models within the interdisciplinary approach, fragmented, connected, and nested, focus on one learning area or subject at a time. Historically, this approach aligned with a subject-centered curriculum where individual subjects were taught separately with minimal cross-curricular activity, and emphasis was placed on acquisition and rote memorization of content knowledge through teacher-centered instruction. We still use interdisciplinary approaches in schools and classrooms today, but it looks a little different from the past. We can see an example of interdisciplinary integration in the Australian curriculum, where learning areas are based on single subjects. As we know, each of these learning areas includes specific disciplinary knowledge, understanding, and skills in the form of interrelated strands and substrands. Although there are other dimensions to the Australian curriculum, the foundations of these single subject areas reflects a spiral curriculum, where the fundamental ideas and skills of the subject are continually revisited and developed over time in logical progression, with the complexity of the ideas and skills increasing each time. So unlike the single subject approaches of the past, interdisciplinary teaching and learning approaches today use a student-centered approach to make connections between knowledge and skills. Now let's have a closer look at the nested model in particular. This approach, like all interdisciplinary models, focuses on a single subject, but the integration occurs as the lesson, topic, or unit of work targets multiple connected skills within that subject area at one time. This may include a content-specific skill, a thinking skill, and/or a social skill. The key to this approach is using natural combinations of knowledge and skills. There are many benefits of using the nested approach to curriculum integration. For example, it provides opportunity to efficiently address and develop multiple skills and content knowledge at once. This is certainly beneficial in an overcrowded curriculum. Furthermore, by nesting these discipline-specific skills and knowledge, teachers can enhance student learning and make explicit connections to prior learning. Using a nested approach is particularly suitable for the early years, where guided inquiry and more structured activities are beneficial for developing foundational concepts, skills, and attitudes. While there are many benefits for its use, for the nested model to be a successful integrated teaching and learning approach, the concepts and combinations chosen to be nested for a lesson or unit must be carefully planned and executed so that it flows and makes sense to students. If the teacher is not clear, intentional, and explicit about the inclusion of various layers of learning, the result may instead be minimal transfer of knowledge or application of skills and concepts. What's more, if too many skills and concepts are included in the nested activity when students have not developed using these skills, the intention and learning priority of the lesson may become obscure. As mentioned, the Australian curriculum supports a nested approach through the design of interrelated strands of knowledge, understanding, and skills which progressively develop from foundation to Year 10. An example of how to apply the nested integration approach in the classroom can be seen here in this guided inquiry for a Year 2 science unit focusing on chemical sciences. Although the main focus of this inquiry would be the science understanding strand of the Australian curriculum, the experiment used provides opportunity to nest complementary content from the science inquiry skills and science as a human endeavour strands, as we know these work well together. For example, part of this inquiry could include a hands-on experiment where students work together to mix predetermined combinations of water, detergent, and oil. To explicitly make links to the science as a human endeavour strand, students could ask questions and observe and describe changes throughout the experiment. To develop science inquiry skills, students could make predictions, observations, comparisons, and include drawings of their findings. Using this nested approach and explicitly making connections between learning provides multiple dimensions to this experiment and numerous opportunities to develop and practice skills. Furthermore, when connections are explicitly made between these strands in lessons, in units of work, and school-wide programming, students are supported to continually develop a scientific view of the world rather than be passive consumers of knowledge. I will now pass over to Kelsey, who will discuss multidisciplinary integration.
The multidisciplinary approach encompasses an integration which focuses primarily on a theme, subject, or point of inquiry. This topic is then used to learn from multiple viewpoints and faculties. The web model, which sits under the umbrella of multidisciplinary, uses a thematic approach to curriculum. The educator uses a fertile theme or inquiry question to base learning through multiple subject areas. This differs from traditional teaching methods, wherein each subject is taught with clear separation between them and allows for the development of 21st century skills through a more modern approach to pedagogy. In the modern classroom and through curriculum objectives, emphasis is placed on integration through subject matter when focusing on general capabilities and cross-curriculum priorities. This shows a shift in thinking towards how students best learn and how to ensure topics are developed in curriculum. Due to the thematic approach, connections are easily made by students through their learning, allowing for scaffolding across subjects. There is built-in context throughout the curriculum by allowing associations to be made and creating a learning environment which encourages multiple avenues to understanding through differing teaching strategies which benefit each subject faculty. For example, using space as the fertile theme, the educator may set a literacy task to create a science fiction piece of writing. Then in science, use a hands-on experimental approach to space exploration like a VR experience. And within art, create a papier-mâché solar system using correct colour, size and order of planets. This method of pedagogy links to Gardner's ideology of multiple intelligences by addressing numerous ways in which to absorb learning. Within the lower stages of primary education, Reggio Emilia's educational philosophy of emergent curriculum can be used with less formal or methodical teaching practices and with the webbed model in mind. A student takes interest in a bee on the playground. This leads to sentence building about bees, a science lesson on the importance of bees, and an art lesson creating bees' wings. 21st century skills are fostered by allowing these forms and processes of learning. Students are able to think creatively and communicate and collaborate effectively. This also gives the educator the opportunity to map learning outcomes across multiple disciplines. Although the webbed model can have a positive effect on student learning processes, limitations can be seen in its application. Due to the single theme focus, student engagement is reliant upon their interest in this. A student may become disengaged in the entire learning process if the subject matter lacks personal interest to the individual student. Likewise, in continuous changing of subjects and lack of clear lines between curriculum, students may become lost within the course of their studies as the webbed model leaves little room for variety in learning and can cause detachment or confusion. Another area of limitation is that the application and school-wide practice may vary from the webbed model approach. This model is dependent upon teaching autonomy or some form of agreement with other faculty members. For example, schools who have refined and consistent programs require faculty negotiation or leniency within planning to allow for the multidisciplinary approach. Furthermore, the Australian curriculum is not established in a way which is congruent with the webbed model. Outcomes may not match the chosen fertile theme throughout subjects, or themes may be limited to requirements set by outcomes in order to fully develop integrated ideology. Within the classroom, the webbed model can be approached from multiple perspectives depending upon outcomes, stage level, and learning intent. Traditionally, the thematic approach is used employing a topic rich in subject matter. This is suited for all year levels but can be considered as the best webbed model process for upper primary and high school education, where students can have differing teachers dependent upon subject. Through teacher conferencing and collaborative efforts between staff, educators are able to program learning in a way which each subject caters to the other. Inquiry questions can be used as stimulus for learning rather than a direct theme. This emphasizes the critical thinking skills developed with webbed integration by creating a broader spectrum of understanding. For example, the inquiry question, "What is electricity?" leads to further analysis by considering ways in which to answer rather than the topic of electricity. Within early childhood and lower primary, emergent curriculum is able to generate opportunities in the webbed model, but in a manner which creates higher levels of engagement through allowing students to consider their own theme for learning. Outside of the classroom examples, there is a correlation between ideologies set forth with webbed integration and school-wide initiatives. Programs such as WALT or WILF and PEEL and SEAL develop processes which are used throughout the entirety of the curriculum. WALT and WILF outline learning intention or success criteria. This practice uses web ideology by bringing the same concept to all subject areas. Students develop reflective habits when addressing their learning regardless of the faculty. Likewise, PEEL and SEAL provide students with clear paragraph structure and provide guidance for writing. Therefore, all subjects in which students write responses use this program, webbing it to all their learning. System-wide, national agendas which intersect with education use webbed integration. This is done through using themes to develop understanding in all curriculum. Examples of this include NAIDOC Week, Anzac Day, and the Olympics, and so on. These events, which are developed through national interest, are used as the subject matter for learning within school during relevant times Australia-wide. The Olympics, for example, is integrated into PDH, literacy, history, geography, and even numeracy through examining race length, times, and awards. With, like the ACARA's general capabilities and cross-curriculum priorities, system-wide curriculum which is webbed into multiple subjects builds upon student understanding of meaning and importance.
Thanks, Kelsey. Immersed integration is a type of transdisciplinary approach, which means that concepts are taught beyond subjects. Transdisciplinary approaches such as immersed integration are more modern, and we'll see them becoming more common as we move away from the more traditional approaches. Immersed integration essentially starts with a question or topic that is of interest to students, or one of their areas of expertise. Teachers encourage students to immerse themselves into these interests and in doing so connect with a wide variety of data and learning from multiple learning areas. The idea is that students engage with the curriculum through a microscope or the lens of their own interests, with little teacher intervention. It's therefore a student-led approach, with children being active constructors of their own learning, which aligns with Piaget's constructivist theory of learning. Let's look at the benefits of immersed integration. Children in the 21st century have a wide range of learning needs, abilities, and styles. The immersed approach gives them the freedom to pursue questions and topics important to them, in whichever way they learn best, thus accommodating these learning styles. Furthermore, giving students control over their own learning and utilising their interests as a springboard for learning is a good way to provide differentiation. Another benefit is that by honouring students' choices and interests, it provides a meaningful and fun context for learning. As a result, students will likely be more intrinsically motivated to engage and participate in learning. In addition, allowing children to follow their passions is highly conducive to inquiry learning, which involves practices like research and group work. This can build important 21st century skills such as creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and problem solving. As with any teaching approach, immersed integration has its limitations. Firstly, the Australian curriculum is more of a fragmented curriculum, so it can be hard for teachers to adapt into an immersed context. Once you've negotiated a focus with the children, it can be helpful to use a backwards planning process to connect to curriculum descriptors. It's also unlikely that an immersed style of learning will sufficiently address all areas of the curriculum. Some topics or areas of interest will inevitably leave gaps in some skills and knowledge. We need to continually ask ourselves how we can fill these gaps. For this reason, I'd suggest supplementing the immersed model with interdisciplinary models to target specific skills, particularly at the beginning of units. Another limitation that I anticipate from experience is that some children can be quite shy and reluctant to share what they're passionate about. Some may feel put on the spot when trying to think of an interest. To take some of the pressure off, you can make a bank of interesting topics that arise in your classroom, which you can pursue at another time, or you can even have students collaboratively inquire into a focus question. So how does the immersed model actually work in the classroom? One method is the community-focused approach. You can negotiate a focus with the kids about a question important to them. For example, some may be personally concerned about bullying, so you may decide that your class focus is conflict resolution. In a grade 6 class, to target the health curriculum, you could explore different ways of managing personal relationships, including dealing with bullying and conflict. In another lesson, you might extend the theme to a historical context. You could look at historical conflicts between Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and the European settlers. This would also invite children to develop their critical thinking skills, thus addressing the critical and creative thinking capability. You could provide different articles and texts about these conflicts, which the children could compare and discuss in groups, addressing the English curriculum as well as the personal and social capability. As a school, we can make a school-wide commitment to a conceptual lens such as identity, creativity, and well-being. As part of this, we would afford opportunities to the students to investigate their passions, helping them to develop their creativity and self-expression. STEAM in particular lends itself quite well to the immersed model, so all classrooms can have dedicated STEAM sessions in which they explore topics children are interested in. At a system-wide level, ideas related to the immersed model of integration can be seen in the South Australian Curriculum, Standards and Accountability Framework. This framework emphasises the importance of supporting learners to make their own decisions and construct their own learning across multiple disciplines. These ideals align closely with the tenets of the immersed model. Thank you for listening.